K Dreamer Plays.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We are finally looking at 1340 and 1450 in this video. I'll go through the gears on the heroes. For Evan, he's on a full defense set because his shield scales off defense. For Lina, she's on HP set because her healing scales off HP. For Lee, he is not ultimate enhanced. Speaking of which, heroes by now should be ultimate enhanced because if you don't ultimate enhance them, you're gonna have some difficulty for these two particular stages especially, okay? Teal is on a crit set. And if you have Nina, then you will have higher crit and more consistent crit damage. So this team is pretty familiar to you guys if you watched the previous video. Lee is just a very good tank because he is able to be immune to physical damage and also taunt. So as you start off the battle, buff with Lina's skill so that you'll be able to do more damage to the enemies, and to make life easier, use Lee's HP alteration to reduce one of the HP of the enemies to a very low amount. Thankfully, he aimed for Yuri, so this will make very light work of her. Quite unfortunate that my Lee is pretty low on health, but if you manage to taunt here, he will be completely immune to physical damage. All the enemies are actually physical damage based, so it's actually pretty good once Yuri is down. But not to worry because Yuri here is gonna revive him. So if you guys don't actually want to use Lee, I think you can also use other heroes like Charon, Karin. Both of them have very good utility in this particular match. Especially if you have 3 healers, you'll also be able to maintain a pretty good HP amount. But since Lee is back, we are gonna continue with using his HP alteration, because that is kind of like a cheat code in this particular area already. When the enemies have very high health, and if you can cycle this HP alteration whenever it cools down, then you're gonna get an advantage against the enemies by killing them off at very low HP. As you can see here, I'm not using auto skills, okay, because I want the turn to pass and my heroes will be able to kill the enemies with just basic attacks. The reason why is just in case you want to save your skills for the next phase, you can either turn off auto skills or you can actually just queue a skill that is already on cooldown, and then that will allow you to be able to not use any skills at all. So upon entering the second phase, just throw all your Teal attacks, and from then on it's about sustaining. As you can see here, Lee died again to Yuri's attack because Lee doesn't have immunity to magic, and you might want to hold off on reviving him, waiting till at least the turn ends so that he will not take unnecessary damage from Yuri. So when Yuri is alone, try to use Evan's skill to stun her, and this will actually help you take less damage and sustain your team. And use whatever healing abilities you have so that you'll be able to keep your HP high and move into the next phase without too much issue. Hold off all your buffing skills, and when you are ready to move into the next phase, the first skill you should use will be the taunt, and then Lina's skill or Evan's shield depending on the amount of HP you have on your team. Once you are pretty secure in terms of your defensiveness and tankiness based on from Lee's taunt and Evan's shield, then start to buff your Teal with Lina's skill, and then Teal can fire off both his skills. So heal up when Lee is down on low HP. Unfortunately, I was a little late on that because I wanted to sneak in Teal's AoE first. But it doesn't matter because in the end, we are just waiting for Yuri to die as well. And if Yuri dies and you revive Lee right after that, the immunity will come in very handy because both the enemies left will be physical damage based as well. So now Yuri is down, I will cast the Revive to bring Lee back and cast his taunt so that your entire team will be safe from Leo and I don't know what's his name. Both of their attacks. The stun is going to come in pretty handy here, especially if you can stun enemies when they are alone or when they're down to very low numbers. In this case, because Leo's health is pretty low, you can actually just fire off all of Teo's skills and see how that goes. If Teo doesn't manage to kill, then you can still stun them to delay the match and also just sneak in more attacks on them while they are immobilized. Next up is 1450. I'll actually be using the same team here. Same gear sets, nothing has changed. So you can tell that this team itself is a very, very powerful team. Being able to push through around 3 entire areas in fact. In this particular area, you'll be facing many Banes, you'll be facing Derricks who can paralyze and cast poison, and Banes who can silence. But instead of bringing the appropriate resistance or immunity unit which you simply don't have space for, all you can do is really hope that the RNG goes well here. First off, of course, we start off with Teo's attacks. Just do as much damage as you can. Usually in the first phase, the enemies have relatively weaker stats. So in fact, after casting both of Teo's skills, you can actually just use the other skills that you have and keep Teo's skills for the next round. Of course, make sure to sustain your team. Make sure that try not to let Lee die as much as you can. And because his HP alteration also comes in very handy, allowing you to kill faster. You'll come to a point where you don't have much useful skills to use because Teo is on cooldown and you can't possibly just buff for nothing, right? And if you want to heal, you're still pretty much at full HP. So it's either you don't use any skills, or if you are afraid of taking too much damage because Lee's taunt will run out, you can use Evan's shield to increase your block rate and defensiveness, and then continue with the basic attacks and hold off Teo's skills because you really need to use Teo's skills when you're moving into the next phase. And when Bane gets into his zombie immortal form, don't worry too much about it. You can choose to stun him if you want, or you can just let the turns go by. Because in the early phases, Bane's immortality only lasts for 1 turn. But as you progress in the phases, the immortality is going to get longer. That's when you can actually use Teo's buff duration reduction skill, or you can use Evan's stun. So after buffing with Lina, this is your typical procedure by now. Buff with Lina, do HP alteration, and then cast both of Teo's skills. In this case, if you land it on Bane, that's very, very lucky. Then you can actually use Teo's skills. I think they should be able to do quite a good amount of damage on him, making him go into immortal form faster. And then you will be able to deal with him a lot easier because once he's in immortal form, the cooldown begins, right? So you don't actually have to worry too much about if this stage drags on. Unfortunately, Bane is a magic user, so Lee's taunt won't be super effective against him, but Lee's taunt will be good against the other minions. So you can see here, Bane actually just popped and died thanks to proccing his immortality early. But this is something you cannot really, control. It really depends on if you're so lucky that Lee cast the HP alteration on him. Again, not using Teo's skills until we go into the next phase, but you really want Lina. Hopefully she doesn't get debuffed. Otherwise, you could face some issues a while ago. Okay, moving into the third phase, you will cast Lee's Taunt first and repeat the same thing. Buff with Lina, do HP alteration. Also very lucky that when Lee countered, he actually managed to stun Bane. So again, this is another RNG factor that we cannot control, but his stunning is actually doing God's work here. And we're pretty lucky again, the HP alteration landed on Bane. So once Bane is in immortal form, you can actually use Teo's top skill to reduce the immortal duration, and this really just made life a lot easier. So now it's just all about, waiting for Teo to be ready for his skills. And in the meantime, you can still cast HP alteration to lower the enemy's HP down to a comfortable level. Use your stuns to stun the enemy so that they will have lesser turns and lesser damage will be done to you. And that is pretty much it. So I just want to emphasize again that you need to have your unit's ultimate enhanced, because if you think that just going into this without 4 gear slots is going to work, that is going to be very, very difficult. Okay, you may want to try with 3 gear slots, emphasizing on the armor being unlocked, and give it a try. If it doesn't work, then you really will have to use the 4 gear slot effect, so that your heroes will be much more capable to withstand the damage that the enemy can do, and also increase their own utilities in terms of healing and shield, because these effects actually scale off their stats. So I hope this video helped, and if it did, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any other team suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below for everyone. Nightmare video will be coming up next, stay tuned for it. Thank you so much and see you!